The small ship Aurora moved slowly through the endless sky of stars. Inside it, a man named Rian sat near the window, watching the deep space glow with soft blue and gold lights. He had seen many worlds during his work as a peace envoy, but this one felt different. The name of the world was Nethra, home of the Tyrell, a race of tall and proud warrior women who had never met a human before. The mission was simple on paper: start friendly contact and open trade, but everyone knew it was not easy to win trust from the Tyrell. Rian touched the silver pin on his uniform. It carried the symbol of Earth's Unity Council. He remembered his instructor's advice before leaving: be calm, be kind, and remember that sometimes words carry more power than any machine. He smiled at the thought. Words were his weapon of peace. When the ship entered Nethra's orbit, the planet looked like a giant green-blue marble. It had wide oceans, strong mountain ranges, and tall glowing trees that shone at night. The capital city stood near a lake that looked like melted glass. The Tyrell built everything from metal that shimmered under the twin suns. Their towers rose high, shaped like spears pointing to the sky. Rian stepped out of the landing dock as the air shimmered around him. The gravity felt heavier than Earth's, and the air had a faint, sweet scent like rain after a storm. A group of Tyrell guards waited at the edge of the landing bay. They wore shining armor and carried staffs that seemed to hum softly with power. Their leader was Commander Vesha, a tall woman with calm gray eyes. Her silver blue hair was tied behind her head and her face carried markings like waves. She looked at Rian with quiet study, her voice steady as she greeted him. "You are the human envoy from Earth. We have heard your people seek peace." Rian bowed slightly. "Yes, Commander. I am honored to meet you and your people. I come with respect and hope." Her gaze stayed on him for a long moment before she nodded. "You will speak before the council." They led him through long halls made of white stone and blue light. Everywhere he looked, Tyrell warriors trained, moved, and spoke with discipline. No one laughed or smiled. The culture here valued silence and control. Rian could feel how serious and proud they were. Yet he also sensed curiosity in their eyes. They watched him like someone might watch a soft creature walking among steel. When they reached the grand hall, Rian's heart beat faster. The place was wide like a field, with tall pillars reaching the ceiling. The Tyrell Council sat in a half-circle, their armor shining under a beam of light from above. Hundreds of warriors stood in silent rows, each one strong and still. Commander Vesha stepped forward and spoke in their language, which Rian's translator pin understood. "Council of Nethra, this is the human envoy. He comes from a distant world." He asked to speak in friendship. The eldest among them, Elder Nira, nodded slowly. "Let him speak." Rian took a breath. He looked at the faces before him and saw no anger, only cold patience. He spoke with care, keeping his tone gentle. "People of Nethra, I bring greetings from Earth. We have crossed long space to meet you, not for power but for peace and learning. We wish to share ideas, trade knowledge, and grow together." His voice echoed in the hall. The warriors did not move. Rian continued, telling them about Earth's oceans, music, and art. He spoke of unity among different people and the strength that came from trust. But still, the hall stayed silent. He could feel the heavy air pressing around him. For a moment he feared he had failed to reach them. Then something caught his eye. The markings on the faces of the Tyrell shimmered in the light. They looked like gentle waves of silver. They were not just decorations, they were patterns of honor, each line telling a story of that warrior's past. They reminded him of starlight on water. Without thinking much, he smiled softly and said in a calm voice, "You are so beautiful." The hall froze. Every Tyrell stopped moving. Even the air seemed to stop flowing. The translator pin repeated his words in their language, and the sound hung there like a soft bell. Rian felt the sudden silence grow deeper. Commander Vesha's eyes widened slightly, and the warriors behind her shifted as if unsure what to do. Compliments were not part of their world. To the Tyrell, speaking of beauty was strange, even foolish. They valued skill, not appearance. Yet Rian had spoken without plan, only with honest feeling. He looked around, wondering if he had said something wrong, but then he noticed something in Vesha's eyes, a flicker of confusion mixed with something new. Curiosity, maybe. Elder Nira leaned forward. "Human, why do you speak of beauty in a hall of strength?" Rian took a step forward. "Because strength and beauty are not enemies. On Earth, we learn that beauty can be found in courage, in truth, and in every being that carries grace. Your people have built wonders, your markings, your city, your way of standing tall. There is beauty in all of it. For the first time, a few of the warriors glanced at one another. The silence began to soften, replaced by quiet murmurs. Commander Vesha looked at him again. You see beauty in battle marks? Ryan nodded. Yes, they tell your story. Every mark means someone tried, someone grew, someone became stronger. That is beauty to me. The words were simple, yet they carried something that the Tyrell had never heard before. In their world, beauty was weakness. But this human spoke as if beauty was honor. The hall stayed quiet, but the mood had changed. It was no longer cold. It was thoughtful. Elder Nira spoke softly. Perhaps we have judged too quickly. You speak differently, human. There may be more to learn from your kind than we expected. Ryan bowed his head. I thank you, Elder. When the meeting ended, Ryan was led to the guest quarters. The corridors glowed with soft light. The Tyrell guards followed him quietly, their steps in rhythm. As he walked, he thought about what had happened. He had not planned his words, yet somehow they had reached them. Maybe that was the real strength of humanity, the ability to see meaning in simple things and to speak from the heart. From a distance, Commander Vesha watched him leave the hall. She had led many missions and met many beings, but no one had ever spoken to her people like that. She looked at her reflection in the polished wall and traced one of her facial marks. No one had ever called it beautiful before. Later that night, Ryan stood on the balcony of his quarters, looking up at the twin moons of Nethra. The wind was soft, carrying faint music from the training grounds far below. He wondered if the Tyrell understood what he meant or if they only saw it as strange human speech. Still, he felt calm. He spoke quietly to himself. Sometimes truth sounds strange at first, but hearts always understand it in time. In another tower across the city, Commander Vesha sat with Elder Nira. The elder said, that humans' words carry no power in our ways, yet I feel they will stay in our minds for long. Vesha nodded. Yes, Elder, it was not command or challenge. It was something softer, but it reached the room in a way no weapon could. Elder Nira looked at the stars. Perhaps this is the beginning of something new. And so, on that night under the twin moons of Nethra, a quiet seed of understanding began to grow, planted not by force, but by a simple human voice that dared to see beauty where others saw only armor. Rian did not know what his words would mean in days to come. He only knew that he had spoken honestly, and sometimes that was enough to change a world. The next morning on Nethra began with a soft golden light spilling through the tall windows of the guest hall. The twin suns were rising, painting the city towers in shades of silver and orange. Ryan stood near the wide balcony, watching how the light touched the metal rooftops and made them glow like waves. The air felt alive, warm, and filled with a faint humming sound that came from the energy lines running beneath the city. He thought about the council meeting from the day before. The silence after his words had been strange and heavy, yet he could not forget the way some of the Tyrell had looked at him afterward. It was not anger or confusion anymore. It was something softer, something thoughtful. He hoped that meant he had not made a mistake. Soon a light sound came from behind him. A Tyrell aide entered the room. She was young and wore silver armor that shimmered in the morning light. Her name was Rela. She bowed politely before speaking. Envoy Ryan, Commander Vesha requests your presence in the council gardens. She wishes to speak with you. Rian nodded with a smile. Thank you, Rela. I will follow. They walked through wide corridors lined with blue crystals that glowed softly as they passed. The halls were filled with quiet activity. Some Tyrell carried data tablets, others adjusted panels along the walls. Every movement was measured and graceful. Ryan noticed how calm their world seemed, yet he could sense the strength behind every gesture. When they reached the garden, the sight took his breath away. The garden was vast and filled with plants that shimmered like glass leaves. Streams of clear water ran between white stone paths, and strange flower-like lights hung in the air, floating gently as if moved by a quiet breeze. Commander Vesha stood beside one of the fountains. She looked tall and calm as always, but there was something different in her eyes today, less guarded, more curious. Good morning, Commander, Rian greeted warmly. Vesha turned to him. Good morning, human envoy. I wanted to understand something. Your words yesterday caused much talk among my people. Many do not know what to make of them. Ryan gave a small nod. I understand. My words were simple, but sometimes simple things are the hardest to explain. Vesha crossed her arms. You spoke of beauty as if it carries strength. That idea is new to us. On Nethra, beauty has no place in battle or leadership. We are taught that admiration leads to weakness, and weakness invites failure. Ryan looked around the shining garden before answering. Maybe that is true for battle. But life is not only battle. On Earth, we learned that strength is not just the power to fight. It is also the courage to feel. Beauty reminds us why we protect things. It gives meaning to all the effort. Vesha watched him silently. You speak as if emotions can shape power. Yes, Ryan said softly. They do. Without emotions, power has no direction. You can build strong walls, but if there is no reason behind them, what are they protecting? The words lingered in the air like quiet music. Vesha turned toward the fountain and dipped her hand into the flowing water. Her reflection rippled. You think we have forgotten the reason behind our strength? I think you never lost it, Ryan replied gently. You only hid it behind rules. For a while they stood in silence, listening to the faint sound of running water. Then Vesha spoke again. You are different from the stories we heard about humans. We thought your kind was driven by gain and expansion, yet you speak of feelings as if they are treasures. Ryan smiled. Feelings are what make us human. Maybe they make every being alive. They can build bridges faster than any ship. Vesha looked at him, her expression unreadable. The council wishes to test your words. There will be a gathering tonight. You will speak again before a smaller group of scholars and leaders. They wish to hear about your world and what you call the strength of beauty. Ryan agreed. I will do my best. Later that evening, the sky turned violet as the twin suns sank behind the silver mountains. The city lights of Nethra shimmered to life like stars on the ground. Ryan stood in the center of a smaller hall surrounded by a half-circle of Tyrell scholars. Commander Vesha sat beside Elder Nira, watching him closely. He began by showing them a small holo display from his wrist device. Images appeared. Blue oceans, green forests, children painting on walls, dancers moving with grace, and old people smiling under sunlight. The Tyrell watched in quiet wonder. This is Earth, Ryan said softly. Our world is not perfect. We have made mistakes, many of them, but we also build, create, and dream. When we see something beautiful, it reminds us that life is worth protecting. It gives us reason to be strong. One of the scholars, a woman with golden markings on her face, spoke. Your people paint pictures and sing songs. How can these things defend you? Ryan smiled. They defend our hearts. When our hearts remember beauty, we do not give up, even in hard times. Music and art are the soul's shield. You may have great strength of body, but strength of heart is what keeps people from turning cold. The room stayed silent for a while. Then Elder Nira said, You make it sound as if kindness is equal to power. Ryan nodded. In a way, it is. Kindness does not mean weakness. It takes courage to stay gentle in a world that rewards coldness. The words seemed to reach them. Even the guards by the doors listened with quiet focus. Vesha leaned forward. You speak as if you have seen both strength and kindness together. I have, Ryan answered. On Earth, I have seen people who stood for others not because they were ordered, but because they cared. That is beauty. It moves us forward more than fear ever could. The scholars began to whisper among themselves. Some nodded slowly. Ryan could feel the air shift again, just as it had during the first meeting. When the session ended, Elder Nira stood. Human envoy, your words are unlike any we have heard. You have given us a thought to study. Perhaps there is power we have ignored for too long. Vesha walked beside Ryan as they left the hall. You have stirred many hearts tonight, she said. Some will question you, others may try to understand. You should be ready for both. I only speak what I believe, Ryan said with a light smile, and belief is stronger when shared. They stopped near a balcony that overlooked the glowing city. The wind carried the scent of night flowers, and the soft hum of power lines filled the air. Vesha looked out at the lights. You are strange, human. Your people see the universe through feelings. We see it through rules. Maybe there is balance in the middle. Ryan looked at her with respect. Balance is a good word, Commander. Maybe that is where understanding begins. She gave a small nod. Tomorrow I will take you to the Central Library of Nethra. There you will meet our historians. They record all lessons that shape our people. Perhaps they can learn from yours. I will be honored, Ryan replied. As Vesha walked away, Rian stayed on the balcony thinking about her words. The stars above Nethra looked close, almost like lanterns hanging in a dark sea. He wondered how many other worlds waited to be understood, how many hearts hid behind rules and pride. He did not know it, but his simple words had already begun to ripple through the city. Warriors spoke quietly about the human who saw beauty in their marks. Scholars debated what strength truly meant. Even young trainees in the halls began to draw simple patterns on the walls, inspired by the colors from Rian's holo display. The next morning would bring more questions, but also more open hearts. For the first time in generations, the people of Nethra were not only training their bodies, they were beginning to listen to their souls, and all of it started because one human dared to speak with kindness, believing that beauty itself could be a kind of power. Morning light covered the city of Nethra in soft gold. The tall silver towers shone under the twin suns. Ryan woke early and looked out from his window. The city seemed quieter than before. The air felt calm, almost thoughtful. He could sense that something had changed since last night. The Tyrell were not only strong warriors now, they had started to think about the human words that had reached their hearts. As he prepared for the day, a gentle sound came from the door. When it opened, Commander Vesha stepped inside with her usual calm. Her silver-blue hair caught the sunlight and reflected it like glass. She carried 2 cups of a warm green drink. She placed one on the table and said, "This is Kellen tea. It helps focus the mind. Our healers make it before important days." Ryan smiled and thanked her. "I will gladly try it. It smells like mint and sky after rain." Vesha sat across from him. "Today we visit our central library. The council wishes our historians to record your words and learn about human customs. They believe your ideas may help guide our younger generations." Rian nodded. "It will be my honor to meet them." Vesha looked at him with quiet curiosity. "Many of our people now speak of you. They say you carry peace like a shield. I do not understand how words can shape such power." Rian smiled softly. "Because words grow in hearts. Once planted, they do not fade easily. They build change slowly, just like rivers shaping stone." Vesha listened carefully. "You speak in pictures. Your people must love stories." "Yes," Rian replied. "Stories are our way of remembering. They keep our lessons alive." They left the guest hall and took a sky bridge that floated above the city streets. Below them, lines of Tyrell citizens moved through shining plazas and bright gardens. Many looked up at Rian and nodded politely. Their expressions were no longer cold. Some even showed a trace of gentle curiosity. The library stood at the center of the city, surrounded by crystal towers that glowed like ice touched by sunlight. It was shaped like a circle, with tall doors that opened soundlessly. Inside, the air was cool and filled with the scent of paper and energy. The walls were covered with moving light patterns that held recorded memories. An elder greeted them. She introduced herself as Archivist Lima. Her voice was soft, but her presence felt strong. "Welcome, human envoy. I have read the first reports of your words. You speak differently than most who come here. We wish to learn." Rian bowed slightly. "Thank you, Archivist. I will share all I can." They walked among shelves of crystal tablets and glowing data strands. Lima explained that each record held the story of a Tyrell life, every battle, every discovery, every oath. Ryan listened with deep respect. "Your people remember much. On Earth, we also record our lives, but we often keep our mistakes private. You honor all memories equally." "That is beautiful." Lima smiled faintly. "Few have called it that. We see it as duty." "Duty and beauty can be the same thing," Rian replied. "When something is done with care, it becomes beautiful, even if it is simple." The archivist looked thoughtful. "Perhaps you are right." They entered a chamber where young Tyrell learners sat around glowing tables. They looked up as Rian entered. Their teacher whispered that this was the human envoy who spoke of beauty as strength. The young ones looked at him with wide eyes. Ryan smiled kindly. "May I sit with you?" They nodded. He sat on the floor beside them and took out his holo device. "On my world, young learners also study with light screens, but we also use our hands to create." He tapped the device and a set of images appeared, paintings made by children on Earth. Bright colors filled the air, fields of flowers, shining suns, smiling faces. The Tyrell learners watched in quiet wonder. "This," Ryan said, "is how humans show what they feel. Sometimes we cannot find the right words, so we paint or sing." A young Tyrell raised her hand. "But why?" If your world has danger or problems, why spend time making colors? Ryan answered gently. Because art helps us remember joy. It reminds us of what we protect. When hearts remember joy, courage becomes easier. The young ones listened closely. Their teacher smiled slightly. Perhaps we can learn this. Our halls have no color, only order. Maybe it is time we paint again. Commander Vesha watched from the doorway. She could see how the children's eyes glowed with interest. She realized that Ryan's strength was not in command or technology. His strength was in awakening hope. Later they stood again in the main hall of the library. Lima turned to Vesha and said, Commander, this human's lessons are worth keeping. His way of speaking may soften what our rules have hardened. Vesha nodded slowly. Yes, his words reach where orders cannot. Ryan looked at them both. I am only sharing what I know. Every world holds wisdom. We learn when we listen to one another. Lima recorded his words into the library's central archive. The glowing symbols spread through the room, marking a new entry in their long history. It would be known as the human lesson of beauty and strength. After the library visit, Vesha invited Ryan to walk through the lower streets of the city. The markets were filled with quiet movement. Vendors sold crystals that shimmered in soft colors. Musicians played gentle tones on instruments that looked like liquid metal strings. Children followed them curiously, whispering to each other about the human who spoke kind words to the council. They stopped at a small workshop where young engineers repaired flying drones. One of them struggled to fix a damaged part. Ryan knelt beside her and asked, May I see? The young engineer looked nervous but handed him the tool. Ryan studied the device, smiled, and made a few adjustments. The drone's small lights flickered back to life. The girl's eyes widened in surprise. How did you do that? She asked softly. Ryan said, Sometimes you just have to listen to the sound it makes. Machines speak too in their own way. The girl smiled shyly. Vesha watched silently. She realized Ryan had not only shared ideas with leaders but had also touched the everyday lives of her people. As they continued walking, Vesha spoke. You have changed the tone of our city, Ryan. I hear laughter where there was only silence before. The children smile more. Even the guards talk of color and songs. How did you do this? Ryan looked at her and said, I did nothing alone. Your people simply remembered what was already inside them. I only reminded them that beauty and kindness can exist beside strength. Vesha thought for a moment. Maybe we needed a stranger to help us see what was always here. They walked until the suns began to lower in the sky. The air turned soft and golden again. The city reflected the light like a calm sea. Vesha stopped and looked toward the horizon. Ryan, when you leave, what will you tell your council about us? He smiled. I will tell them that the Tyrell are strong not only in body but in spirit. I will tell them that they have the courage to learn new ways without losing who they are. She nodded slowly. That is fair, and we will tell our children about the human who spoke gently and changed the way we see the world. They stood in silence, watching the suns dip below the silver mountains. The wind carried the soft sound of music from the market below. That night, when Ryan returned to his quarters, he found a small gift on his table. It was a crystal pendant shaped like a teardrop. Attached to it was a simple note written in the Tyrell script. His translator read it aloud in a soft tone. To the human who showed us that beauty is not weakness. From those who listen, Ryan smiled. He held the pendant up to the light, and it reflected 1,000 tiny stars across the room. He placed it carefully beside his bed and looked out at the night sky. The stars above Nethra seemed brighter that evening. Somewhere deep in his heart, he knew that something real had begun between humans and the Tyrell. Not just trade or alliance, but friendship built from respect and understanding. And though he did not know it yet, his name and his words would be remembered for generations as the man who taught a proud world that the softest voice can carry the strongest truth. The morning air on Nethra was soft and calm. The twin suns rose slowly over the silver mountains, reflecting their light on the shimmering city below. Ryan stood on the balcony of his quarters looking at the glow of the streets. The city no longer felt tense and strict. It seemed alive in a new way, as if the people themselves had begun to shine from within. He thought of the journey he had taken here, the first meeting with the council, the frozen warriors and the words that had unexpectedly reached their hearts. He had not come to change the Tyrell by force or authority. He had simply spoken honestly, and now the effect of those words was everywhere. A gentle sound alerted him to someone approaching. Commander Vesha stepped onto the balcony. Her usual calm expression had softened into something warmer. She held a small book filled with glowing patterns, one of the recordings from the Central Library. "Ryan," she said, "the Council has requested a final meeting today. They wish to honor your presence before you return to your people." Ryan smiled. "I am honored, Commander. I only shared what I believed to be true." Vesha nodded and gestured to the streets below. "Look around. Your words have already reached them. The children draw colors on walls. The engineers speak of invention and care. Even the warriors are beginning to discuss beauty alongside strength." Ryan watched as a small group of young Tyrell laughed while painting patterns on a low wall. Their silver markings shimmered in the sunlight. He felt a quiet joy inside. "It seems the smallest seeds grow strongest where they are needed most," he said softly. They descended from the balcony and moved through the city streets toward the council hall. The hall itself was brighter than before, as if reflecting the changes in the hearts of the people. Commander Vesha opened the doors and Ryan stepped inside. The council chamber was filled with the Tyrell leaders and scholars, all standing in their usual composed manner. Yet this time there was something different. Their eyes were warmer, their posture more relaxed. They were curious, eager to hear him again. Elder Nira stepped forward and spoke in a quiet but steady tone. "Human Rian, your time on our world has been brief, yet your presence has left a mark. You have reminded us that strength is not only the power of arms or skill, it is also the courage to speak truth and to honor beauty." Ryan bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Elder Nira. I'm only a traveler. I shared what I know because it is part of who I am. I hope your people can choose what to keep and what to grow from it." Commander Vesha added, "Your words have sparked thought among our scholars, our children, and even our warriors. We now see that beauty is not weakness. It is a guide, a reason to act with care, a way to strengthen our hearts." Ryan smiled. He had never expected such reception. "That is all I hoped for. Understanding begins with seeing, and seeing begins with openness. Your people have shown me the same courage by listening." A young warrior named Tira stepped forward. She had been one of those who froze the first day he spoke. Her eyes, still serious but softer now, held curiosity. "Human," she said. "You called us beautiful when we thought no one could see such things in us. How can one word change so much?" Ryan knelt slightly to meet her gaze. "A word is only powerful when it comes from honesty. When we speak with truth, even the smallest word can ripple through hearts and minds. That ripple can grow into understanding and friendship." The warriors exchanged quiet glances. They had been trained for strength and skill all their lives, but now they were realizing that courage could also exist in gentleness and recognition. Elder Nira continued, "We will record your teachings alongside our histories. Your message will remain with us not as a command, but as a lesson. Strength is greater when it embraces both mind and heart." Ryan nodded. "I am honored to have my words remembered, but it is your choice how they live in your world. Remember, every being has the ability to see beauty and honor it. That is what makes life meaningful." The council ceremony ended with a gentle music performance. Tira and other warriors played instruments made of soft metals that sang under their touch. The melodies were unlike anything Rian had heard before. They were strong and delicate at the same time, echoing the lesson that had quietly grown in their hearts. Outside the council hall, the young learners and engineers lined the streets to see Ryan off. They carried small gifts, painted crystals, glowing devices, and handcrafted ornaments. Each gift was a silent message of gratitude. Rian walked slowly among them, touching their hands lightly and smiling. "Thank you," he said. "Your kindness makes this journey unforgettable." Commander Vesha joined him. "You have taught us more than any mission or council could. We will tell stories of your visit, and future generations will hear of the human who spoke gently and strengthened our hearts." Ryan looked out over the city one last time. The streets sparkled not only with lights but with life. The people had started to see and honor what had been hidden inside themselves. He felt a warm sense of completion. "Sometimes," he said softly, "it is not the loudest action that changes a world. It is the quiet ones, the honest words, the moments of recognition that leave lasting marks." Vesha nodded. "Yes, human. The smallest voice can carry the strongest truth. You have shown that." The ship Aurora was waiting at the edge of the city. As Ryan walked toward it, the people of Nethra gathered quietly around the landing bay. They did not raise weapons or demand attention. They simply stood, united in respect, their faces calm but filled with acknowledgement. Tira stepped forward, holding a small crystal shaped like a star. She offered it to him with a slight bow. "For you, human, so that you may remember us as we remember you." Rian took the crystal gently. "I will carry it always," he said. "It will remind me that beauty exists in every heart that dares to see it." As the ship lifted from the surface of Nethra, Ryan looked back at the city. From above, it glowed like a living jewel. The twin suns reflected off the towers, creating waves of light that danced across the crystal gardens. He felt a deep sense of hope. Inside the cabin, Ryan held the crystal in his hand, watching it catch the light. He thought of the Trell warriors, the scholars, the children, and every being he had met. All of them had begun to see something new about themselves. He whispered softly to himself. Even in distant worlds, even among people who seem different, courage and kindness can change hearts. It only takes honesty and respect. Outside the ship, the stars of Nethra shone brighter than any he had ever seen. Somewhere in the distance, a soft hum of energy from the city below reached the heavens. It was as if the planet itself smiled at the choice its people had made to embrace not just strength, but beauty and understanding. Rian leaned back in his chair and watched as the planet slowly receded into the distance. He knew that history would remember this day, not for battles won or victories taken, but for the quiet lesson of a human who dared to speak honestly and show that strength and beauty could live side by side. He thought of Commander Vesha and Elder Nira, of Tira and the young learners, of every citizen who had begun to see in a new way. They had all learned that courage could be gentle, that power could be soft, and that words, when true, could shape entire worlds. As the ship entered the calm of space, Ryan held the crystal close. The reflection of Nethra danced in it, a reminder that even the smallest act of recognition can ripple across a world and leave a lasting light. And somewhere, beneath the silver towers and glowing gardens, the Trell stood together, smiling quietly. They had seen something important. A human had arrived among them and reminded them that true strength is not only in steel or skill, but also in honesty, kindness, and the courage to see beauty in the world. That day, the stars seemed to shine just a little brighter. Not because of any weapon, not because of any conquest, but because hearts had opened, lessons had been shared, and the soft voice of a human had left a lasting mark on the proud world of Nethra. And so, the story of Rian, the human who spoke 5 simple words, became a tale that would echo across generations. It was a story of hope, of understanding, and of the quiet power of truth, proving that sometimes the strongest heroes are those who carry only kindness and courage in their hearts. The end.